I'm talking to Ernie Carlson. Ernie, you're from Circle, Montana, I know, and
Yep.
you had an amazing experience with Fastrack the very first time that you used the product, and I know that's been many years ago. But tell me the story about those cattle.
Well, I was buying and selling lightweight feeder calves from the sale barn, and I had probably started with a bunch of calves that got double vaccinated, and I was already having quite a bit of sickness problem. These calves, it just went wild, the sickness, it was terrible. And I had fought it for close to 6 or 7 weeks. I'd fought this, and there was just a tremendous amount of expense went into antibiotics, and the death loss was high, and there just seemed to be no end to it in sight. It was a terrible situation, and I introduced Fastrack into the ration, and when I did that in 48 hours time, I went from treating 15 or 20 head to sick ones every day and having 3 or 4 die to no death loss and no treatment pulls, I guess you'd call it, for new sick ones. The sickness just stopped. The cattle looked completely different in just a matter of a matter of 24 hours. They looked different. 48, you hardly recognize that bunch of calves, and there was close to 400 head of them. And anyway, the results were just incredible. There was about 30 head of the chronics that had been through the sick pen 2 or 3 times, and their digestive tract was just pretty much ruined. And out of that 30 head, there was probably 25 of them that recovered and actually wound up fitting right in with the bunch when I sold them in the fall after they'd run the summer on grass. And anyway, it was just the results were just phenomenal. It worked great in the sick pen. Just the response to the antibiotics just became completely different because they'd go back to eating, and what little sickness I had, as I basically just straightened out what was sick, they were back in the main bunch in 2 or 3 days, where sometimes they'd have to be separated for 2 or 3 weeks before they were strong enough to compete again. And it was just a phenomenal experience and just phenomenal results.
Tell me exactly which products you used and how you used them when you first got them, because obviously you had a mess.
Yeah.
It was the first time you were using the product. How'd you use it?
The very first product that when I got the product, I had microbial pack and the ruminant gel.
Okay.
And it was interesting. I had seen just a little trace of possibly some benefit from a competing product, and but I couldn't get it. I just couldn't get enough, and that was one thing that was important when I got involved and ordered my first Fastrack. Where my first order was 200 pounds of it. It had got enough to do some good, and so I had that and ruminant gel. And the very first thing, I had some sick ones to treat, and the ruminant gel was given immediately. And of course that same day, then I fed my first dose of the microbial pack in a total mixed ration. But the first result I saw was the next morning, because there was 3 head I was sure was going to be dead the next morning. Mm-hmm. And 2 of them were in the feed rack licking out trying to get more feed, and their feed bunk was just completely slicked out, and so those 3 calves were just looking great, like barely 12 hours later, and so those were the 2 products, but I saw almost instant results with the ruminant gel.
That's great. Well, you used it right. One of the key things I tell people is if animals aren't eating, you got to get it into it somehow. So
Yes.
It's the gel, or it's the bolus, or it's the liquid dispersible in a drench, or somehow you got to get it into the system artificially. But once they're eating,
Yeah.
the probiotic pack, that's the easiest way to get it into them.
Yeah, and that sick pen, I can't remember now, but I think there was probably 10, 12 head right there, and eating was a problem, the whole bunch. And I took a little bit of the Fastrack and just scattered it on their ration, and like I said, the next morning it was completely slicked out.
That is
It was just, you know, and they immediately looked different. You know, much more. Well, they looked like they might live, and they all did.
Well, one of the things I always say is that Fastrack is a stress-sensitive product, and when it comes to beef cattle, birth, you know, you get a sterile digestive tract. If you can get Fastrack into a healthy calf, that's number one. Number two is at weaning, they're going to be stressed.
Yeah.
The third is anytime you move cattle, they're going to be stressed, and so on receiving, that's the important part to use it. And then in that first feed month that they see. But then anytime an animal goes through an antibiotic treatment, in the sick pen, every dose of antibiotic should be followed up with Fastrack. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Ernie from Circle, Montana, thanks for the time today.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dennis.
You bet.